Yeah, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Mark Stevens, author of Adventures in Legal Land, and of course, the newly released Government Indicted. You can get that at markstevens.net. Although, I am back order right now, so you order it, and I will be shipping next week. Should be. Contact me for details at markstevens.net. You can also get me at markstevens at riseup.net. It's January 25th, 2014. My gosh, the month is over. The first month of January of 2014 is already pretty much over. And wow, it is going quick. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. I want to take your calls. We have the number is 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. And I want to go to Stephen in California. So, Stephen, welcome back to the No State Project.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing well. What do you got for us today?
How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. What do you got for us today?
Well, I went to court. Wednesday.
How did that go?
You there?
I'm here.
Not well. Not well at all. Okay. Basically, I didn't get a good ruling on my demur. He didn't even answer demur. He didn't even tell me why he denied it. And
you know that
the whole
that's
time I challenged his jurisdiction.
okay. Well, let's go one step at a time here, Stephen. You do know from listening to the show that when these psychopaths don't have grounds, they don't give them. They can't.
I know.
So you weren't surprised that he didn't give you any grounds.
No, I was not surprised one bit. But, the point is that if you keep calm and stick to your, ground, they're supposed to stay in honor and act dignified at least and say, well, I denied it for X reason or whatever. He says it was faithless. Matter of fact, he even said some uncalled for things like your paperwork is almost religious in nature.
It's almost what?
Religious in nature. And I said, sir, I don't necessarily believe in God. And he said, that's not what I mean.
Religious?
And, I was kind of...
Okay.
Religious, yeah. He said that I was acting religious in nature with my paperwork.
Did he explain what the hell he meant by
Mark,
religion?
I didn't just file the murder. I filed the request for judicial notice that you have,
Yeah.
and the same one that you used. And he didn't even say anything about that at all. I also sent them a conditional acceptance on proof of claim, which he totally didn't recognize, and a demand for dismissal, which he totally ignored.
Okay.
So I just kept saying, you don't have jurisdiction.
Okay,
well,
but you're making it
in California.
But
that's
Stephen,
irrelevant.
we'll go through this because it's not. You don't want to be telling them you don't have jurisdiction. The more effective way and the proper way to say it is, sir, there is no evidence. So this way, if he tells you you're full of crap,
Right.
then you can. Well, what's the? I
said
want to
that.
know. We got plenty of time. Don't worry, Steve. Let's flesh this out. Did he explain at all what in the world he meant that the paperwork was almost religious in nature? God isn't mentioned. The Bible's not mentioned. What is he getting at?
I'm going to tell you. My opinion is that he's scared that there are people out there that are starting to come to realization that they don't have nothing. You know what I mean? They have no proof of their claims, and I've come to realization from listening to other people like yourself with different angles that the reason there's no prosecutor is this is what they call a SKV trust that's been kind of instituted into the world, and I don't want to get into that, but the clerk is the trustee, the prosecutor is the executor, and the defendant's the beneficiary, and the judge is the administrator. They're trying to shift the burden from the prosecutor being the executor to you being the executor instead of the beneficiary. The beneficiary receives the money, he doesn't pay. But, if the prosecutor's not there, then they're shifting the blame on you. But to get back to what I'm trying to say here about what happened, he's trying to say my paperwork was religious in nature. And what I got out of that is he seems like he's a little bit scared of what I was trying to say in my paperwork, and that's my assumption is that he thinks there's a group out there that is starting to wake up, and so he's afraid. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I know some Dr. Mindbender makes a good point here that you could have pointed out that he was the one dressed like a priest. You know, he's the one that's got
that's what it is. It's almost the whole experience is like going in there. The prosecutor starting you for a crime. Go ahead, confess your crime to the judge, and then he'll forgive you. It's the sacrament of penance is what we're doing here.
Yeah, but never,
you know, most people don't understand how deep the rabbit hole is.
Sure, he never explained what he meant by it was religious in nature or almost religious.
No, he never elaborated. And then he started losing his cool, and I just kept thinking, you have no subject matter jurisdiction. And then he held up the ticket, and he says, I have a ticket. I said, that's an allegation. It's not a fact. Do you have an affidavit from the officer? He didn't even, I said, I want to see all the evidence. He said, no, I'm not going to tell you anything. You reside in California. Since you're in the geographic location of California, I have jurisdiction. I said, geographic locations don't make arguments in court. And he just ignored me, and then he said, well, listen, Mr., my last name, and then I said, excuse me, I'm not a mister, that's a fiction. But I never said I wasn't the name. And then he said, what is your name? And I said, but I didn't say anything other than I'm not a mister. And then he said, well, hand your ID to the sheriff, and I know if you consent, you're not supposed to do that. So I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to hand my ID I hand it to the big. Why? Because it doesn't say Mr. on a license. It says my first name. So the whole case was the total.
Right. That's because you let it get out of hand. So one of the first things I want to address here, though, is you said something about expecting. Yeah. You said something about them expecting them to stay in honor, and this I believe is a backwards way of looking at it. They don't have honor. It's just a title that criminals gave themselves. If this man had any honor, would he be forcing you on the threat of jail to answer this complaint? Steve?
Listen, I wrote a...
Wait, let's just take this one step at a time.
Conduct of the last...
You're breaking up pretty bad now, Steve.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, well just first let's start.
You got me?
Yeah. How you can't expect honor from somebody who's forcing you under the threat of jail to answer someone's complaint. So you can't expect honor to be, there. You can't expect, let me finish. You can't expect honor from somebody who has no voluntary support. So you have to go in with the mindset that these people are dishonorable crooks. And they are only trying to make it look good. They are trying, their whole point, their whole existence is to make it look good. And it's your job and my job to go in there and contradict them and have them contradict themselves, rather, to bring out that it is not fair. We'll be back here on the No State Project in just a few moments. My name is Marc Stevens. You're listening to LRN.FM. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project for January 25th, 2014, here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. And before I forget, I'll mention this a number of times throughout the show. I am trading up shirts, finally picking up that ball and running with it again. So if you go to markstevens.net on the forum, I have 4 awesome shirts. I'm actually not wearing one for the show today, but you go to the website, go onto the forum, markstevens.net/board, and just scroll down to where we're doing, barter and check out the link. There are 4 shirts. They're large and extra large. They're in gray, 2 gray and 2 in white. So, and it's the one that you've seen me here on the show and at Libertopia. I completely forgot about them from Libertopia. I had the 4 left over. And so we're looking to do a trade-up. So the idea is to trade up to make enough trades to where I can possibly get a very large item such as a house. And the difference here is that no taxes would be paid on it. Now, I know there's the risk that the psychopaths will just take it. So, I could do 6 months to a year worth of work and, these lunatics just take it. But, even that's newsworthy. and worth doing, because it demonstrates a number of things. But we'll talk more about that. I want to get back to the calls. We're talking with Stephen in California. He had quite a trip. I want to just mention, welcome back, Stephen. I know that Matthew, listening in Australia, we've mentioned this on the show before, and so he had a comment on Skype, said it was religious due to its blasphemy and the blasphemous nature. And that's really what you did. When you or I or any of us, or like when we're doing here on the show, we're questioning the existence of their God, and that being the state, the government, and that their laws actually apply to anybody. And so when you and I or any of us go around and we're questioning the actual applicability of what they consider sacred, like their Constitution, we know that they don't listen to it, but they use it as an instrument to control us. So in that respect, it's very, very important to them. And so when we're questioning them on it, they don't take it too well. In fact, if you go to markstevens.net, if you haven't heard the hearing that I did with the criminals in the Washington Department of Revenue, I confront her directly on this, and she admits, Janine Purrington, Washington Department of Revenue, criminal, liar. She admits that the Constitution is the foundation of their statutory authority. But when you start discussing evidence the Constitution actually applies, that's when things get dicey. That's when you're blaspheming. So I don't think that hey, maybe, I don't know, maybe this psychopath that you dealt with a few days ago, Stephen, maybe that's where they looked at it. It was religious in nature because it was blaspheming the church or the state. You had the audacity to say that they didn't have evidence to prove that their laws applied to you.
Actually, I didn't think he took it in an angry way. He kind of looked at me like in a stunning enlightenment to his mind. It's kind of how he was reacting. One thing I want to say, I don't know if you heard of Rodney Class, but he's brought up some viewpoints that they're using the jurisdiction of the 1917 Trading with the Enemies Act as a resident alien enemy, that they're charging me for that. So as he was telling the bailiff to tell me to leave and that he claimed I refused to plea, I said, no, I haven't refused to plea. You haven't provided any evidence that how the state laws apply to me, but yet you're stating because I live in the state, they apply, and I'm asking you for proof that the laws do apply. What evidence do you have that they apply? And he claimed, well, I've entered a plea not guilty for you, set it for trial, and I said I revoked the plea under 1018 of the Penal Code. You don't have my power of attorney to enter a plea for me, and I'm not refusing to plea. You're not answering my question, and you have not made a ruling on my paperwork, which I would appreciate you doing since I spent so much time researching this. And then I asked him, are you using the jurisdiction of the 1917 Trading with the Enemies? And he said, no. And then I said, well, I noticed the flag over there. It's the president's flag. And that's the state of emergency flag.
No.
It's martial law. Martial court. Is that what you're presiding under that? And he said, he didn't say anything. So I kind of put him on the spot with all this because it's factual. It's there. And, if they don't want to admit it, then that's fine. But if they want to admit it, then, under the 11th Amendment, you can't be trying people with Trading Under the Enemies Act unless you go to the State Department and the federal court first. And I haven't been notified from them. So
yeah, well Stephen, we're hearing when you're saying it, it's a demonstration of why it's necessary to not make affirmative statements other than to point out that there's no evidence showing the Constitution and laws apply. So when you start bringing all that in, it's a burden of proof.
Well, it was already over by the time.
Well, all right.
Mark, it was already over by the time I made that statement because he'd already entered the plea. He refused to revoke it, and he was having the bailiff push me out of the court. And then that's when I started telling, are you trying me under this, or are you trying me under that? And he just shook his head and told me to leave, get out of here, blah, blah, blah.
But it paints, it has a bad effect because it paints you as some kind of Freeman nut. So we don't want to do that. What I want to...
No, not really.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's they're going to lump you in as some kind of sovereign citizen, type of Freeman land type. But one of the things I want to bring out when we're questioning them on the demur, and I don't know if you did this or not. Tell me if you did. Did you ask him what are the 6 points he thought didn't have merit? Did you ask him to go through the 6 points? Did you?
He said none of. He said none of my points had any merit on any of my paperwork whatsoever. But then, you know what? It's like I was telling you, I was listening to Rodney Clapton's people last night talking on his show on Talk Shoe, and they were talking about you and the jurisdiction laws, how the state laws apply, and all that. And I was just kind of sitting there going, I can't wait to talk to Mark tomorrow, because it's obvious that that's the sticking point, that they can't prove that the laws apply, but yet he's claiming they do in this court case. And all I did with the end there was try to infuriate him, because I was keeping my cool the whole time, and he did get upset. And I tried to prove that he was acting unprofessional, and that's what I proved. Now, when I went to the clerk, the sheriff deputy came up to me and said, have you ever signed any papers since you've been to the court? And I said, no. He says, well, you have a right to an elected judge if you want to see one. And I said, yeah, I know that. And he said, well, you can have this whole hearing wiped out if you want to request an elected judge. So maybe that's the next step.
Well, that because I had already written down, you definitely you'd want to do a change of judge and have that plea vacated, because you weren't refusing to plea. What he was doing was he was covering the burden of proof for the prosecution and reading into things into the complaint that aren't there. So that's what. Yeah. So either way, I don't necessarily trust what this guy was telling you. Well, if you want an elected judge, I'd have to do some research.
Well, yeah,
to confirm
I think he's right, because I called the supervising judge clerk on Thursday, and she said the same thing. If you've never signed a stipulation to a commissioner, you have the right to see an elected judge. That sheriff wasn't trying to be a jerk. He was just trying to offer, since I had such a bad time in there, an opinion on what I could do. Which I already knew, and I had already requested this, but they didn't want to do it that way, so... that's where we're at now. So she told me to write a letter to the supervising judge requesting a elected judge, and basically we'll go from there.
Yeah, and get that plea stricken. You definitely have to bring out that the judge, and I'd file a complaint against the commissioner with the presiding judge and the Judicial Conduct Commission also, because this is what I talked about in that video.
I already did.
Oh, okay. That's what I talked about in the video, that they are criminals, and they're lying. This guy lied that you were refusing to plea, and it's just what they do to cover up the prosecutor's lack of evidence. Hold on tight just a moment. My name is Marc Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. It's January 25th, 2014 here in the fortified compound in Phoenix, Arizona. We'll be back with your calls in just a moment. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Marc Stevens, author of Government Indicted, and welcome back. It's the January 25th edition of the No State Project here on LRN.FM, and just want to let everybody know that our friend of the show who gave a wonderful review of Government Indicted on strikethrough.com, talking about Alex Knight III, and I just want to let everybody know, if you're up in the Northeast, he's been scheduled to speak and sign copies of his print books, Victoria's Place and Other Tales of Terror and Mortician's Food, on Saturday, February 22nd at the Alt Expo at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Nashua, New Hampshire. I wish I was able to be there, but then again, when I look out the window and it's so beautiful here, it'd be tough to. For Alex, I would, but you got to have these things out here. But it's going to be, I'll give out more details, and hopefully we can have Alex on the big show to discuss that. But he will be talking at the February 22nd at the Alt Expo Crown Plaza Hotel in Nashua, New Hampshire. So look, I wish I was able to be there, but maybe we'll get a few people there and get some video of that. Where I will be not as a speaker, I will be as a vendor only at the Freedom Summit in next month. I believe that, yes, the 14th and 16th of February, the Freedom Summit in Phoenix, Arizona. I will be a vendor only. I will not be speaking, but Paul Rosenberg and Larkin Rose will be, so it'll be worth it just for that. And John Bush is also going to be there, who gave an awesome presentation with his new show, at Libertopia. So definitely check that out. February 14th to the 16th, I'll be doing the No Stay Project live from the Sheridan Crescent Resort in Phoenix on the 15th of February. So definitely, if you're in the area, you want to see participate in the No Stay Project live in the studio, so to speak, the mobile studio, thanks to Mr. Ernest Hancock, then definitely join us there the weekend of February 14th. I want to get back to the calls. Where are we here? Okay, we want to get back to the calls. Looks like we have Martin in Oregon. Martin, welcome back to the No Stay Project. What do you have for us today? Martin, what do you have for us today?
For an arraignment last time we talked.
I'm sorry?
Hey, we were talking about my last time we talked, and they ended up not showing it up for a while. It was kind of a mystery case. There was no case number. And I just recently found out that I have an arraignment scheduled.
How'd you find that out?
They dropped. I have a friend who's a journalist, and they actually didn't send me anything, but my friend checked out some database, and he actually told me I had him check for me. Oh. I'm a little confused why they didn't send anything.
Yeah, really. Maybe they're looking just to stack another charge of failure to appear and blame it on you. Now, what was the original charge?
This was when I was kind of an idiot, and I mixed up my words. I was the one who thought that they were trying to offer a contract, so I didn't give them my name. I was going to give them my ID, but before I could, they pulled me out of my car and put me in jail for a few days.
That's okay.
Now they also had me on like a DUI because they smelled something in my car after they pulled me out, but they ended up dropping the DUI, the reckless, and something else. The charges that stuck were running a red light, failure to present my license, and the interference with a police officer, which is what they arrested me for.
Contempt of cop. Got it. Okay. And when's your arraignment?
It's actually on Tuesday.
This Tuesday?
It's in a few days, yeah. So I'm trying to figure out if I should, file discovery. I want to, for one thing, I kind of want to see the video before entering a plea. I mean, I don't want to enter a plea either way, but I'd like to at least, that's one thing I could say, I'd like to see the video evidence of me running the red light before I enter a plea.
Well, why focus on that?
I don't know whether I should be...
I wouldn't focus on that. I would look at it more... look, it's the same thing. Do they have, the threshold question is always going to be, is there evidence proving jurisdiction? Do they have any evidence showing that the Constitution and laws of the plaintiff state actually apply to you? That's a threshold question. You have to clear the jurisdictional hurdle before anything else matters. Nothing else is relevant until that is cleared up. It's not an exclusive to me. I didn't make it up. That's just the way the system works. It's actually one that I agree with. So that's where I would be focused on. I think what I would do is I would take have you seen the video about taking in the unsigned plea of guilty?
Yes.
That's the way I would take it. I would go in with an unsigned plea of guilty because if you heard Stephen's call, they could just accuse you, and they very well will accuse you of refusing to plea, so that they can enter a plea for you and then set it for trial or for pretrial here. So that's why we go in with the unsigned plea of guilty, is to throw a monkey wrench into that plan and possibly at least at the very least we're proving that the judge is a liar, and you'll have your document to prove that. It'll be in the file because you'll give him a copy. That's the way I would do it, and just put the prosecutor on the spot if he in fact is careless enough to show up that day, and ask the judge, I'm more than happy to play ball with you. I'll plead guilty right now. Can you confirm the prosecutor has any evidence proving jurisdiction? That the Constitution, laws of the plaintiff state apply to me in any way.
Yeah, but I mean, that's when they railroad you and they just say, oh, the laws apply because the laws apply, or whatever, right?
No, objection. That's circular logic. I'm asking for evidence. So first, let's take this one step at a time there, Mr. Black Robe Wonder Lawyer. Can you confirm that the prosecution has any evidence? So walk them through it that way.
Yeah, I feel like they're so far deep in their system that just looks like crazy talk, and they'll lock me up for whatever they want.
Well, that doesn't.
That you can.
You want to take it one step. You're asking for evidence. You're asking for the evidence the prosecution has to prove jurisdiction. That's not crazy talk. Now, they may consider a crazy talk that you don't believe that there's evidence proving the Constitution and laws apply. So, well, crazy talk or not, it's a valid question, sir. Does he have the evidence or not? If he has the evidence, then I'll plead guilty. You're just asking for evidence. And I would say, objection. Are you actually saying that I'm crazy for asking for evidence? I think I want to get a professional judge in here. Did we lose Martin?
Right. Yeah, okay. And then we should be filing a demur before I go in there? And or should I file discovery and have the question posing the evidence in my discovery by saying, I'd like to know what evidence you have and all that.
Well, you can always file the demur.
I don't know the paperwork.
You can file the demur. I think it's actually a motion to dismiss in Oregon. Same thing, really. You could file that on Monday, or you can go in with it. But I would, if it doesn't go anywhere and you're asking the same questions, then you could say, they denied the demur without explanation. You say, well, you know what? Seeing how things are going here, I don't think it's a good idea to have a trial with you guys. I'm more than happy to plead guilty. Can you confirm the prosecution has presented evidence proving the laws of the plaintiff state actually apply to me? And, the worst that happens is they lie to you. As long as you're just saying it like that, then really the worst that happens is they lie, they enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf, and you get a pretrial date. And then you file a motion to change the judge. You get in your discovery request and to the prosecutor, and you take it from there. But for Tuesday, I would get on the No State Project chat or somewhere else with some other people who know and have been in the courts before and know what they're dealing with. And I would go with a script. I would run over how I'm going to handle the judge and prosecutor that day. And I would make sure that I object to almost everything they say. I want clarification. I want my questions answered. And I want the prosecutor to put the evidence on the table proving the laws of the plaintiff state actually apply. Because it's the only way to prove jurisdiction. It's also an element of the crime. You're charged with 3 code violations. They're violations of the statute, the state code. So the code the Constitution and laws there has to be evidence they apply, because you can't violate something that doesn't apply to you. So that being an element of the crime has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. There has to be evidence, and it's not something the judge is allowed to just pick up and say it's a given. No element of the crime is a given. Damn, even if it is on video, it is still subject to questioning, especially in 2014. With all the video manipulation and angles and whatnot, and just basic. All right, we're up against a break. Just hold on a second. My name is Marc Stevens. This is the No State Project here on LRN.FM. We'll be back with the second hour of the No State Project in just a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. It is January 25th, 2014, and glad to be back here live at the Fortified Compound in Phoenix, Arizona, where it is a beautiful, absolutely astoundingly beautiful day today. I should be doing the show outside. Maybe it's just too nice a day. Too bad it's going to be dark when the show's over, but we'll have some time to do some training. I like to do some hiking again and go out to the Superstition Mountains, which would be nice. Anyway, glad to be with you back here. I just want to mention about the trading up for the shirts. So we have the 4 No State Project shirts, well, actually government-indicted shirts, and it's got the Anarchy A on it. There's pictures at markstevens.net. Go on to the forum for that. So if you're interested in doing a barter for the 4 shirts, contact me at markstevens@riseup.net or markstevens@mail.com. And I have to mention, we'll bring Martin back here on the show. something during the break that was in the news. Edward Snowden saying something about the government's contract with the people. The guy may know crypto technology, and he may know a lot of NSA secrets and how they're doing things. He know a damn thing about the relationship between the people called government and the victims, the masses of the people, such as me and the people listening to the show. No. If by contract he meant violent domination, right on the money. But no contract. This is just like with this Freeman stuff. There, when the police stops you and he's giving you a ticket, he's trying to contract with you. No, he's not. You don't begin with threats of violence in a contract. This, the two don't go. It's not a contract, and Snowden misses that, which is unfortunate. But we'll get back to your calls, and we could talk more about that later. But you'll hear other people talking about that contract. But it's a social contract, really. And with taxation, with the forcible taking and jailing and killing of people for support, yeah, sounds like a great deal. Next thing you know, you're going to tell me to move to Somalia. Anyway, I want to bring back, we've got Martin in Oregon. We're talking about he has an arraignment coming up in Oregon on Tuesday. So could you give us the details, where you're going to be at what time, so that we could possibly get a media rep in there? That would help at least keep the judge from starting to yell and threaten you?
Yeah, I could. That was just a good segue, because that's how I got into this. Is I didn't want to contract with him, and I was just kind of unclear about my position with everything. And so I don't want to go into the court like I think it was Steve earlier and talk about maritime law pointing at the flag. I don't know what I really. Also, the unsigned guilty plea, like, what do I do after he enters the plea for me? What would you do at that point?
Well, let's see how, when they do that, what should be the first thing you say when they do that? I was like, Mr. Martin, I'm going to enter a plea of not guilty for you and set this matter for a pre-trial.
You don't have the power of attorney to do that, and you're covering the burden of proof for the prosecutor?
Don't worry about the power of attorney. You don't need to get into that. The first thing out of your mouth when they do something like that or anything else that's unfair is what word? I'm looking for a particular word that should always be the first thing you say.
I object.
Objection, yes, absolutely. So you say objection.
Yeah.
So that stops the process. They don't like it. Even they understand the key to having it look semi-valid is that when you make an objection, that's a procedural thing to stop. Well, stop. Time out. We got a problem here. This needs to be addressed. And they tend to stop. Because they know how bad it looks to have an objection not ruled on. So, you're objecting on those grounds, and you say, no, excuse me. Objection, are you alleging, are you on the under the illusion that I'm refusing to plea? Because you want to get why they're trying to do a plea of not guilty for you instead of answering the question, can you confirm that the prosecution has any evidence proving the laws of the plaintiff state actually apply to me? So the objection is what you need to do, and then you get into the, you ask the question. Okay, remember, you're just asking the question. Let's understand it. Let's see if we understand each other here, because you don't know why he's doing it yet. We can assume that, but let's get him to say it first. He may say, hey, you're just here playing games. You're refusing to plea. Oh, no. I got an unsigned plea of guilty right here. I just wanted you to confirm if the prosecutor has evidence or not. That's all I'm looking for you to do over here.
Yeah, but when they notice the trap, I don't see it going down very well.
No, it's not. Not every judge is going to completely bail out the prosecutor, though. I mean, I was in federal court last month and watched it, where the judge, the guy was working with a good friend, and he was saying that Mr. Prosecutor has not presented evidence. And he said, where is his evidence? And the judge, he just turns in his chair and says, "Mr. Prosecutor, do you have anything that, to offer?" "I don't have anything, Your Honor." Unfortunately, in that situation, the judge or the magistrate actually was not able to just dismiss right then and there. All he could do was make a recommendation to the judge, the federal judge, so that the federal judge could then make the ruling on throwing it out. In other situations where the judge just sits there and lets the prosecutor stand on his own 2 feet, a lot of times the prosecutor will just withdraw the charge. If you get into a situation like Stephen went through, where the judge is going to dig his heels in and protect the prosecutor, let's say he does that. So we're not going to hear anything like that. We're not going to hear anything like that. We're going to set this for trial. We're going to set this for pretrial. What would you say?
Well, I mean, that's when I'd call him out for, what was it, practicing law from the bench?
No, first you have to object.
The burden of proof for the prosecutor.
Yeah. You want to object, right? So you're going to object and you say, "Excuse me, I'm not refusing to plea. We're not moving on until you confirm that the prosecutor has presented you evidence proving that there's any jurisdiction over me at all to set this for pretrial or anything else." I think that would be the better thing to say there. Yeah, he might just tell you to get back.
Yeah, it's just that, I'm trying to find my balls on this one because it just sounds like in a courtroom full of other people and other people waiting in line at the jail or whatever it is on the TVs. It's just like they're not going to want to let me just say that, make it look like I have a leg to stand on.
You may have to take it up after in writing, like we talked with Steve, with the motion to change the judge. And you like I spoke about in that video, where you're going to have to say, look, the judge was dishonest. He lied. He can only enter a plea when I refuse to plea. I did not do that. The record reflects that I was trying to plead guilty. All the judge was doing was picking up the burden of proof for the prosecutor. And it's the same thing we've mentioned before. The judge is either concealing material evidence from you, or he's covering up the fact that there is no evidence. Either way, he's proven that he's the real criminal in this situation. And that should be enough to get him thrown out. Now, if they don't disqualify him, then at least that gives you grounds to stop the trial or any other proceedings on a petition for writ of mandamus to have that denial of a motion to change judge reviewed. So at least you've got some remedy to stop these lunatics. Because when they do something like that against you, the fix is in. Martin, it's obvious to you and everyone else. The fix is in. If the judge is not, because then you could still object because there's no presumption of innocence. Whoa, objection. So you're telling me I'm not presumed innocent of every element of the charge? Now the judge is in a pretty bad spot. It doesn't mean that by raising the objection, he's going to say, oh my gosh, Mark, you're right. I'm being a total douche over here. Let me reverse it. But you've got it on the record. You made the objection. It's something you can raise later that could possibly get it thrown out. And if he doesn't, you can go up on a petition for writ of mandate so that it could get tossed out in the higher court. Hold on a second. We're up against the break. We'll finish on the other side. My name is Mark Stevens. This is the No State Project here on LRN.FM. That's the Liberty Radio Network. We're taking your calls today at 218-632-9399. We'll be back with Martin and more calls in just a moment. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Mark Stevens. Government Indicted, available at markstevens.net. And yes, I am working on the ebook for that, but it's going to take some work. It's going to be even larger. And I know I've got to get the standing cross-reference updated. I made some updates the other day, but I have to get all the Canadian, Australian, New Zealand, and the English citations up there, and I will get to that, I promise. But get to markstevens.net today, especially if you are interested in doing a barter for some 4 awesome shirts. They're government-indicted shirts, and it says across there that reification, man, it's a hell of a drug. And that's really what we're doing when we go into court, is we're breaking the reification process, and that's what Martin has an appointment to do on Tuesday, so we'll get some information regarding maybe where that is, so maybe we can get a media rep there. But I wanted to, there was a really good comment, Martin, that someone had on here, and it's Matthew down in Australia, down in Queensland, mate. Appreciate this comment. And he says, if they accuse you of playing games, because this is something that comes up a lot, he says, this is really, he says, tell them I understand quite well that my life is in danger right now in this room, so I'm absolutely not playing games. That doesn't mean that I'm such a coward that I'll give you all a free pass on your claims against me. Nice. Very good. I do appreciate that. And hopefully you don't have to say that, Martin. But you need to get prepared for going in. Have you done any role playing regarding these issues? Do you have a script? Do we have Martin? Let's see. We lost Martin. Let's see. Martin, we got you back?
Yeah, you got me back.
All right.
Basically, when I found that I had like a ghost arraignment, nothing happened, didn't have a system. I basically just didn't think about it. I went on vacation for a month, so I wasn't very responsible.
You went on vacation for a month?
Well, I mean, more or less, yeah.
Nice. I am quite envious of that. I don't know too many people that get to go on vacation for a month, but that's great if you're able to do that.
Well, I had to, yeah. Thanks. I am too. I waited a long time. I didn't have driving privileges for a long time, so yeah. Basically, I'm curious. What you think there'd be to help my case out at all because I got into the situation by not giving them my name because I didn't think, or basically because I didn't give them my license because I didn't think that I needed one to drive a car.
Well,
so I'm not subject to their codes in that respect.
Yeah, well, you're not subject to the codes, period. Well, no, you're not subject to the codes, period. They don't apply to anybody. There's no actual evidence. It's just, political platitudes and circular arguments and appeals to authority. It's nothing but logical fallacies and just outright lies. What I would do is I would get into the No State Project Skype chat. You can contact me at FrankRizzo3 and I could put you in. And I'd get a script and I'd start role-playing with people and stick to just challenging the accusation against you that the Constitution and laws of the plaintiff state apply to you. Now, they may give you some garbage. If you're in California, then I have jurisdiction. Well, you're saying then, let me understand you correctly here. Are you saying that my physical location means the Constitution and laws of the state apply to me? And you've probably heard me say this many times to actual bureaucrats, and they always say yes, because that's the generalization. That's the religious aspect of it. It just is. And how dare you challenge it? So once you get that in the clarification, say, well, what evidence has the prosecution given you to lead you to believe that just because I'm physically in California or I'm physically in Oregon, that the Constitution laws of the plaintiff state apply to me? And they can't give you anything. Oh, well, you're here. You're here. Give me the evidence. Explain to me how the laws apply to me just because I'm physically here. And they won't be able to give that to you. But I would suggest spending more than a few hours with a script and role-playing with people to help prepare for that.
Okay, I mean, if I checked resident at some point, is that going to affect anything?
It doesn't. Nothing that you and I do is going to create a state unless it's between you and me. It doesn't matter what we sign.
It's just like the Snowden thing. Just like Snowden was saying, it's like an implied contract. That's what people think that it is.
But I don't think he said it was an implied contract. Well, for what was reported here on that top of the hour segment, the break, that it was. Well, I have to see what he actually said. We'll have to look that up. And so, Calvin, it was just something that was reported during the break on the network. And so I don't know what we'd have to look that up. I guess we just listened to the podcast again.
I said it was. One more question, Mark. Would you delay if it were you and you just now found out, because I haven't gotten anything in the mail? Should I try to delay my arraignment so I'm more prepared, or will that come back to bite me? Cause it's been like 2 months. It's been a while since the incident was like early November.
Okay. They're still not going to have any evidence.
I'm thinking, should I?
Well, if you go get a continuance, it's kind of late. It's kind of late in the day to get a continuance. But if you get a continuance, they're going to say that you're waiving speedy trial rights, so they can take 6 years to prosecute you. So it's So that's just I doubt you get it at this late in the game. Yeah, give it a shot on Monday. If you're able to get it, great. You got more time to prepare. I would start right now, or after the show, and listen to some of the past shows where we talked about these things. Listen to the hearing that I did with Ian Freeman of Free Talk Live and, of course, LRN.FM. Listen to, watch that video that we have posted at markstevens.net. Listen to the hearing with the Washington criminals, the Washington Department of Revenue, so that you have an idea of how to handle objections and how to handle the garbage that they're going to be spewing forth at you. You really only have one major issue that you need to stick to. I'm here intending to plead guilty. Has the prosecution provided any evidence that the Constitution laws apply? And stick to that. That's really the most that you need to do. Keep them on that point. Don't accept, well, the code says. I'm sorry?
Do you think that they could ever twist your said intent to plead guilty against you as to saying that that's why you're presumed guilty?
They're supposed to presume you innocent.
I mean, it doesn't make much sense. But.
No. They know that people who are completely innocent plead guilty every day. Pleading guilty does not mean you actually believe that there's evidence you're guilty. It's just that you're so overwhelmed by the system. And something that I've got on the list of things to talk about how stressful the court system is, that you've got attorneys in record numbers killing themselves. Not that that's a big loss. Maybe that's the callousness in me. I just don't care if lawyers are killing themselves. More power to them. I mean, double, triple, or 100 times the numbers of lawyers killing. As long as they're just taking themselves out, I just don't care. It's not a big loss to me. But we got a full boat of calls, so I do want to. Well, we're up against the break anyway, so we'll. Well, just hold the phone 1 second. We'll finish off air, Martin. So just hold on a second. My name's Marc Stevens. This is the No State Project. It is January 25th, 2014. We're actually halfway through the show already. My gosh, it's going fast. Hopefully that JT is going to join us. But you're listening to LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. We'll be back here in just a moment. Don't go away.